Omega, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, we live? Oh boy, here we go. You see, earlier before the show started, Yankum DDS challenged me to make sure that I talk in this accent.
To destroy
So it's your fault then.
everything you love around you. I'm going to make you watch everything you love die, and then I'm going to laugh and you beg for me to kill you too.
I'm sorry.
No, you're gonna die! You are gonna die! I guarantee it!
Hey, Omega.
Yes.
You know why they call Indiana the Hoosier State?
Because Victoria's Secret is from there?
No, it's because every time you look around the corner, you have a little kid asking, "Who's your daddy?"
Quiet down your shout. I got stuff like stuff done. No laughing loud. I tend to feel to track down blue. You'll be good at laughing times if you only listen to get serious. Oh, woo! Get serious. Oh, whoa! Get serious! Enough!
Hey everybody, and welcome to Who Gets Serious number 92. I am Gunner, that is Omega BR.
Shouldn't the kids be asking if I'm their daddy? Like they don't know who their dad is.
I misspoke, it was the people asking the kids, "Who's your daddy?" Ain't that right, Jacob DDS?
Well, that still doesn't make sense.
No,
Why would I?
It's because often in bar fights, in the rough and tumble days when Indiana was the West, people's ears would be cut off. So it was not uncommon to hear the phrase, "Whose ear is this?" Whose ear became Hoosier, and so the legend goes that all of us from the great state of Indiana, including the hardcore legend Mick Foley, who was born here, are called Hoosiers.
So that's why you're so ugly. Okay. And joining us this week as a guest, the one, the only, well, you know him, Netchester.
And after that, I will firmly leave my introductions in the immortal hands of Ed Whalen.
I have seen menageries in my life. This is the biggest zoo I've ever been in.
I see exactly where you pattern your speech after. Let's get to the news. And the thing that's been concerning me the most, which is John Cena, of course, because, you know, I'm such a John Cena guy. John Cena will return at Hell in the Cell 3 months ahead of schedule. But whether he actually wrestles remains to be seen. He was cleared by the WWE doctors, however. Ultimate Warrior and DX continue to be big names discussed for the Hall of Fame this year, while Daniel Bryan is being pegged as the early winner of the Royal Rumble. And CM Punk versus Randy Orton is being pitched as a potential WrestleMania title match. World Heavyweight Championship. Meanwhile, Vince McMahon may push up his return to television after last week's Raw did one of the worst viewerships in 15 years. Apparently, Paul Heyman's proposal to Ryback was a McMahon idea to try and shock viewers away from football during halftime. That was a bad idea.
So we got Vinnie Mac to blame for the bro-posal. Oh, lordy.
You know, I didn't think that segment was bad, necessarily. I thought it was unique and everything, but it is getting very obvious that they're getting desperate for ratings. And yet, you know, you look at this week's Raw, and it's nothing but, I mean, half of it is rematches from Battleground and such, and then they wonder why people aren't paying attention, you know?
Yeah, that's it right there. You couldn't have said it any better. I mean, I love the fact that during the Battleground pregame that, oh, hell. I was about to say Zack Ryder. Anyway,
Damian Sandow or Dolph Ziggler.
Sorry. Oh, I just had the pizza. My mind is trying to shut down. But yes, Damian Sandow.
Damian Ziggler.
See what you got me doing? But anyway, you did not need to repeat that last night on Raw. I mean, I love that how before the match happened, he was on the app, Damian Sandow was, talking like a meek next door psycho killer that he was going to rip into Ziggler. But still, why did that match have to happen again?
Yeah, you know, it's just easy for them. It's easy to do rematches. It's easy to kind of progress. You know, it's kind of a trend where after a pay-per-view, they don't really forward the story. They almost treat the next Raw like a cool-down period. Like, okay, we just had our big pay-per-view. Now we can kind of ease into the next thing a little bit. But, you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. They're not that bad at booking a 20-minute segment. But it's not a 20-minute show, it's a 3-hour show.
And they're having a really bad time booking unique matches and keeping everything interesting for those 3 hours, which is a failure on the creative end. Because these workers are working their butts off and they only get 6 minutes a time because you have to plug the app, and you have to plug this and plug that.
It's not just a problem with Raw either, and we'll get into our Battleground coverage.
It's a problem with everything, really, and it's the fact that they're too ADD to not offend anybody with ADD, but they're too ADD to actually pay attention long enough to a topic to be able to keep our interests. When really what they're doing is hot-shotting and making things too fast. You know, relatively speaking, and not letting us soak in some stuff because you know, Big Show was kind of fired. And then we went right into the next segment. I mean, there really wasn't much time. I mean, there was a commercial break. But that was it. But, like, you know, that's a big deal. And I was still waiting for Show to kick Stephanie in the face. That would have been great.
Oh,
that would have been better than Jericho.
Yeah, that's true. But we all know that Show isn't gonna touch Steph. However, if he did I wanted him to go the opposite direction. I wanted him to humiliate Stephanie. I wanted him to plant a big, fat, freaking wet kiss on her face and have her freak the F out. That would have been incredible.
I don't so much mind the pacing of the show in that respect because, you know, that's basically how it's always gone. You know, big segment at the front, big segment at the back and everything. I just think they're focusing on this one storyline of Triple H and Power and the surrounding WWE title controversy and this and that. But it's not focused. The storyline itself isn't focused because they're pulling in all these extra elements. You've got Big Show knocking Triple H out, and now he's the, even though Daniel Bryan was standing over Triple H and doing the yes, it very much felt like, you know, that was Big Show's moment, not really Bryan's, you know. And now they have HBK as the referee in Hell in a Cell, and it's going to be a matter of, you know, oh, well, HBK trained Bryan, but he's Triple H's best friend, and now that's going to be an element of it. There's the whole Maddox thing, there's, you know, it just feels like, you know, they do what they've done lately, which is, you know, they pull in so many different little pieces of this storyline, but it doesn't feel whole. You know, it doesn't feel like the thing we really should be focused on, Bryan versus Orton, and to that extent, Bryan himself. You know what I mean? But anyway, let's talk about something that is focused for a change. TNA. It's said that TNA's future in 2014 will depend on a number of actors, but chiefly who is in charge. And it said that the Carters would rather sell the company to get something out of it instead of just letting it die, and Spike TV would, of course, rather not lose it at all. Many feel that Dixie Carter and Spike will eventually cave into Hulk Hogan's demands to bring him back while they're still in negotiation. Of course, that would render their recent cost and talent cutting pointless. Eric Bischoff's contract reportedly lasts until 2014, early 2014, but he took to Twitter to deny this, of course. Jeff Jarrett is back as a full-time agent and wrestled in Japan for a Great Mura's Wrestle One promotion over the weekend. And if you didn't notice them being gone, despite being heavily promoted, Bellator has pulled Tito Ortiz and Rampage Jackson from television and Bound for Glory. And Kurt Angle, though he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame at Bound for Glory, he isn't currently scheduled to wrestle at the big event.
Okay, why did Bellator get pissed all of a sudden and yank Tito and Rampage? Anybody know?
Because they need Tito and Rampage because their tournament is starting.
Yeah, even though they weren't really doing anything well, not that physical. I mean, they just... It was bad. It was bad planning on the part of everyone involved, Spike and TNA and Bellator and everybody. They're supposed to be cross-pushing there, but, not that I watch Bellator, but apparently, TNA does a lot of Bellator promotion on their show, but I don't know how much TNA promotion Bellator does. I've heard it's none. As for Hogan, what can you really say at this point? We say it every week. They kind of deserve what they get if they really want Hogan back. He's done nothing for them, nothing of substance, really. His paycheck is way too high. His asking is way too high. At a time when they're struggling to get by, they want to go out and buy a yacht. That's basically what's happening. So, what can you say?
You talk about fiscal irresponsibility, not to get governmental or anything, but woo! You need Hogan now?
Yeah, exactly.
It's so weird to see, the Hogan experiment coming to an end, At the beginning of all of this, if you all remember, there was a hint of optimism. It was like, hey, maybe they can come in, turn things around, make them actual competitor. But there's a couple of missteps they took in there that I believe that aren't exactly the best, idea that they ever had. Monday Night Wars, looking at you. Although they were, good for the 6 weeks that they lasted. I don't believe that. I believe that plus a few other mismanagements and, a whole lot of money being poured down the drain. This isn't Billionaire Ted over here. The Carters have a freaking, limit, and they're at their limit. And, it's 10 years of this product? 11 now? And it isn't surprising in the least to see this sort of decline, but the question remains, is Spike TV going to pick them up, or is Spike TV going to let them drop?
Well, I remember a couple of weeks ago we said, I think it was Bob Carter who called, who was it they kept calling? And Carter kept saying, man, I think it was Bruce, no, I'll have to look it up. But remember they said, it was Bob calling him up and saying, I just can't lose any more money. And the person in question, who I can't remember, would say, well, talk to your daughter, she's the one in charge. And then that would just be kind of the progression of things.
The family that doesn't talk flops.
Speaking of a progression of things, let's get into the progression of a few mid-card talents on the WWE side. Antonio Cesaro's big swing, and the reaction that it
cut in just for a second and say it was Jerry Jarrett. That's right. Jerry Jarrett claims that Bob would call him two or three times a week and just say, I just can't lose any more money, Jerry. And Jerry would tell him, talk to your daughter. So.
Yeah, exactly. So this head, it lies on Dixie's shoulders, basically, and she's going to get the nasty chopping block, if you will. Antonio Cesaro's big swing and the reaction it gets may translate into a face turn eventually, which wouldn't surprise me in the least. While R-Truth may be turned heel one more time, then after being featured more often in recent weeks, turn against
heel Truth.
Wade Barrett is rumored to be repackaged, possibly as the Bad News Barrett persona he's shown on the JBL and Cole show, which is a fucking hilarious persona. But it's too funny for him, in my opinion, and it won't be a main event push. And Drew McIntyre might break away from 3MB to return to his Chosen One persona. Meanwhile, WWE has signed Paul Van Dale's daughter, Lee Van Dam, who is former Patriots and Lakers cheerleader. There's a
Are you sure that's not
guy into the
Van
company.
Dam?
I don't know if it's Leigh or Leah or whatever.
Paul Van Dale, if you don't know, was something of a jobber who appeared on some episodes of Superstars of Wrestling and Wrestling Challenge back in the 90s, early 90s. I'm not sure where else he frequented. But at least she has something of a wrestling pedigree.
Well, it's always good to have, father who is in the business, so you know what you can expect. But we haven't heard anything wrestling-wise from her before, so we're just going to have to wait and see whether or not she's any good, or we've got another model that doesn't know how to wrestle on her hands.
She's attractive in that kind of way that, like, you could go to the beach in California or, where South Beach or somewhere and find 100 girls that are of similar beauty in a way. You know what I mean? She's a beautiful girl, but she's not strikingly unique from at first glance. You know what I mean?
California dime a dozen, sorta.
Which, I guess you can't really expect them to hire just based on, super unique look. But, you take Eva Marie and her hair dyeing and all that stuff, But, plus the fact that she's a former cheerleader for 2 major teams, so she's got to have something of an athletic pedigree as well.
Should I just move us on to the next news segment, which happens to be the last one?
Well, I'll say this. Cesaro is destined for big things, and if he doesn't achieve them, then that would be a real shame, because the guy has the pedigree himself.
I'll just add quickly that I would love for a return of Conspiracy Truth, because that, by far, has been my favorite R-Truth.
It really was his best work, and if I remember right, the reason they changed him back to a face is because Vince thought there was just a ton of money in Little Jimmy merchandise. And
look how that went.
Yeah, they released, maybe 2 shirts, and maybe some, like a hat, maybe, with the Little Jimmy logo on it or something. And he doesn't even bring up Jimmy anymore.
But you forget the Little Jimmy pendant.
Yeah,
they made a pendant.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they make a pendant? But I just expect R-Truth to have some sort of massive heel turn here. Something along the lines of, would be weird. What if brother was a Paul Heyman guy?
That would be interesting. I wouldn't mind that. Of course, the way...
He would never be a Paul Heyman guy, but he would be a Paul Heyman guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Of course, the way we had R-Truth become heel in the first place was after he got face in the first place is after Miz screwed him over. So who would R-Truth have to screw over to become a heel again? And how big would that have to be?
It's an interesting idea, but I don't necessarily want Heyman guys to be the go-to when you have nothing else to do with a person. Because, on the one hand, if Ryback can become one, then anybody can become one. And so, it'll start to lose its luster a little bit, because the whole point of being a Heyman guy is that he kind of brings out the best in you, in a way. Then again, that proposal with Ryback, that wasn't really on Ryback, but, it does kind of bring a new facet to his character, so...
Oh, let's shut down all talk of that proposal, shall we? And speaking of shutdowns, Gunner...
Amid the government
I believe it's my turn, so
It is your turn, but you'd failed to... You'd like that fence right in between your cracks, so...
Oh, God, I didn't mean to start that shit again, no!
Hate you guys.
Go on,
You're a lot
fearless
like
leader.
the government. You're a lot like the government, Gunner.
And why is that?
Well, you're dumb and I hate you and you do everything wrong and you should just stop.
Ouch! Anyway...
I'm just gonna go cry in the corner.
Okay, one of you two take this next one, or I will.
And you also interrupt my Judge Judy too much.
Now, who wouldn't interrupt Judge Judy?
As you know, the government shutdown is in day 8, and as a result, TNA is offering all federal employees free tickets to the Tulsa Impact taping this Thursday, apparently in an attempt to cause a massive tragedy and get everybody back focused on what's really important. The Armed Forces Network was actually shut down along with the government, but it's received special funding and it is returned, allowing troops overseas to catch up on the last week's WWE programming, including Battleground. The National Enquirer reports that Stacy Keibler would consider a one-night return to WWE for a hefty payoff to help maintain the lucrative lifestyle she enjoyed while dating George Clooney, but TMZ denied this report, and Keibler herself has said that WWE has shown no interest in her in the past when her agents have tried to contact them. The Times of India reports that the great Khali was unable to take a role in the new film Escape Plan, recommended to him by Sylvester Stallone himself, due to his WWE contract, which prevents him from taking such third-party roles. And according to a listing on verifiedcall.com, you're going to love this one, Ned Jester, you can chat with WWE Hall of Famer Sonny for just $4 a minute.
Wow, chicka, wow, wow. Oh, man, if that ain't a huge freaking target for the pervs out there.
As you hear.
Nobody is going to pay 4 minutes to talk to fucking Sonny. Nobody.
Pranksters.
I don't know why that isn't in the Happy Trails, because I thought we had decided that Sonny is not allowed in the news anymore. The only place she can appear is in Happy Trails.
Well, let's put it this way. It's at the end of the news, and we didn't proofread. So, there you go. But as you may have noticed, Yankum has been awfully quiet today. And, we just found out what he's been up to.
What?
Hide the women and children!
Calling Sonny for $4 a minute at verified.
I see now. I see.
So again, the wow chicka wow wow.
See, he doesn't even have a response. That normally, if he was listening to the show and actually being, the technical producer that he should be, he would have had a witty retort. My comment. But
Well, here's the thing.
Case rested.
Unlike some assholes, I don't like to interrupt and ruin other people's segments. I mean, I could be playing soundboards and just generally being disrupted for, no reason whatsoever, like some people do during segment 3.
Dumb myself down!
You mean except for the fact that it's funny?
It's not funny.
So Stacy Keibler, huh?
And
Lies. I wouldn't I wouldn't want to see Stacy Keibler. I don't think she was that big of a draw, to be honest.
she was
I like her,
okay
but,
during her time, but
And hey, special funding for the Armed Forces Network? Who do you think got that through?
Vince, of course.
But it's for the Armed Forces Network. It's a little bigger than Vince.
Well, the government actually I think it was the government rejected a private bid to reopen the Grand Canyon by an Arizona town.
How can you privately reopen the Grand Canyon?
Well, they
private
would provide the
citizens.
funding privately.
Yeah, private citizens were going to pay all of the bills to reopen the Grand Canyon, but the government said no because they are dickholes.
They don't want any holes around that are bigger than that.
Yeah. They got head like holes.
I think the implication was that they're assholes, but let's just do segment 2.
Hey, everybody, we're going to get into segment number 2, which is the 15-minute time limit.
Bing, bing, bing. Took you long enough.
For those of you who are initiated in this, 15-minute time limit is where we talk about a particular topic or subject for 15 minutes straight, and we try to stay on topic best we can. This week, we're going to go through Battleground results and our feelings about Battleground, because we have the feels about the Battleground. So, alright, my fellow compatriots, the first match of the night was Dolph Ziggler versus Damien Sandow, which saw the winner being Dolph Ziggler. What did you guys think of this match?
I skipped it to watch the Treehouse of Horror.
Okay. It was a very good match. I really liked this the first time around, not the second time around.
Yeah, it was about what I said it was going to be, or what I thought. It was not to toot my own horn, but a nice warm up. Ziggler showing off what he can do. Obviously, Sandow. The whole Sandow hurting his knee angle was a nice touch, just as a a little extra something to a pre-show match. And, if what they're intending to do was sort of build the idea that Sandow would get frustrated, because I don't think I'm the only one who thought Sandow getting this frustrated would result in a cash-in, so he could prove that, he's not a loser, that type of thing. I don't know if that was a subtle thing they were doing, probably not, but,
I don't feel much for subtleties right now. I'm not saying that they're in their lull period, but they're in their lull period.
Well, the first few weeks of football, they always get a little bit more, they always get a little bit more worried about the NFL, I think, than they should be, so they do some weird...
Be? Dude, NFL, the number one television show on Monday nights is Monday Night Football. football.
When
Football
it's
is on.
during the football season, yes, but when it's not, it's Monday Night Raw. So they don't have to worry too much, I wouldn't think.
17 weeks out of the year is a quarter and a half. I would be pretty worried if I were them. And considering that the rating this week is the lowest in 15 years, oh, spoilers.
Actually, the rating last week was the lowest. I think the rating this week
Is lower.
or viewer. Oh, that's right. Viewership was up this week, but the rating's lower. Viewership was the lowest last week.
Yeah, the Dolph Ziggler-Damian Sandow match was pretty fun. It completely ruled out Damian Sandow actually cashing in later in the night, though. That was really fucking stupid.
Well, plus the fact that the next match was ADR versus Rob Van Dam, and they start this trend of starting the pay-per-view with the world title. I understand why they do it, but considering this was a hardcore match and everything, I think maybe they should have readjusted a little bit. Not that it was a bad hardcore match,
It was fine for a hardcore match. Yeah, I was expecting better.
Yeah, well, a hardcore match in WWE these days, it's basically just a tables, ladders, and chairs match. And
I was expecting something just a little bit more intense, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, and again, the only weapons they'll use is a table, chair, maybe a ladder, and then, maybe something else like the bucket that made sense given the story. Which of course ADR won, but via submission by cross arm breaker on the chair. And say what you will about ADR's feuds and his general blandness in terms of story, but he can bust out some pretty decent pay-per-view matches. Anyway, the next match, I believe, was Curtis Axel versus R-Truth for the Intercontinental title, which Axel won. And to be honest, I don't really remember. This would start the string of about 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 matches that you could consider skippable, or matches that were made at the last minute. And to comment on that, it's not that the matches were bad. It's just, again, here's the thing. When you make a match on Friday night, or the Saturday night, or even the rare Sunday morning, which I think is what Wyatt and Kingston was. Or no, that's what Real American Santino Kali was. When you do that, and you try to fill out the pay-per-view card with the mid-card that you're not doing anything with, and the reason you do that is because you've booked your big matches, but you still have like 100 minutes left to fill in the pay-per-view. So you give these matches, these matches all got, 5 to 10 minutes, something like that. Maybe a little more. So, the people in the matches are gonna use the time and use it to the best of their ability. So it's not that these were necessarily bad matches, but it's the fact that nobody was given a reason to care about them. So, I found myself watching, but not really watching. You know what I mean? Like, I was watching, just waiting for the end to start so I could, perk back up and pay attention again, But
I
anyway.
barely paid any attention to any of this pay-per-view at all. I think the only matches I actually watched were Cody and Goldust versus The Shield, and
That was clearly the big
versus
one,
Randy
besides the
Orton.
main event. Those were the 2 biggest matches, and the matches they actually put effort into. The rest of them were essentially just, pressing because...
They were filler matches for filler pay-per-view. None of this even needed to exist.
I kind of compare it to a house show. At a house show, you'll have matches that you won't necessarily care about because the story's not there. It's basically just good guys versus bad guys, for the mid card anyway. But at a house show, those matches, where they might get a few minutes on Raw, they'll get 10 to 15 minutes at a house show because there's no time restriction really. So they can be pretty decent, good matches. It's just that you don't have that real spark to kind of care and pay full attention. I mean, if you're there live, obviously you do, but if they televised every house show, you think people, even if the matches were good, you think people would really pay attention all the time. Not really, and that's kind of what Battleground was for much of the card.
But no, what match are we on right now?
Well, Axel versus Truth, which was not. I can't really say much about these matches other than it wasn't awful, but there was
nothing
much
special.
standout.
It just wasn't special, and that's the problem with basically the entire mid card. Unless you're in that inner clique, nothing is special.
Well, let's just go down the line here, since Wyatt versus Kingston, anything there?
Spider Walk from Bray, and
Which he kind of fell over.
He tipped himself over.
That was actually
it looked
cool.
like he. Yeah, well, he's done that before, and I'm not gonna comment because I'm gonna start a whole thing, but
you're gonna what?
I'm not gonna make a comment about the Wyatts because I'm gonna start a whole thing, but
because you find them terrible and boring.
Not necessarily terrible, but I do find them. I am about this close to being officially over with them, just because they've done nothing with them, and then when they do something with them, I mean, it's not like Wyatt is a ring general, and it really does kind of show.
You realize that all they're waiting for is Kane to come back, right?
That's the only reason I'm not officially over them, is because I know that Hell in a Cell is sort of the culmination of a lot of things, and whatever the Wyatts are supposed to be doing, that is hopefully going to be one of them.
99% sure that we're going to get the start of the whatchamacallit feud, the Bray Wyatt versus Kane feud again, sometime in the near future. Very near future.
All I can say about that match was, crap walk.
Yes, crab walk. Let's see here. AJ Lee and Brie Bella bored me. Real Americans and Santino and Khali was not as entertaining as the SmackDown match where... that was with 3MB, never mind.
Well, they did it again on Raw, and I think they did almost spot for spot. They did it again on Raw.
Including the giant swing. I mean, my favorite thing from Cesaro has been, up until now, the Swiss death uppercut. But the giant swing, it's fun, but especially if you do it in somebody like Khali, which was amazing the first time around, but now they're in danger of spamming it too much, so, wow.
Well, it's a popular thing, so you can't blame him for doing it. But I think sooner or later he's going to bust out that head thing where he kind of balances them on his shoulders while he's turning.
Yeah. The thing that I'm really interested in is eventually they're going to call that a finish. They're going to call it the border toss. And then Fernandez is going to get all pissed. So let's talk about everybody's favorite match of the night. CM Punk versus Bully Rai. Bully Rai.
Oh, I'm clever.
That's a good one.
See what you did there.
In fact, I didn't think of it. That's mine.
That's a surprise.
That's mine.
Why am I bored by
Here's the
CM
thing.
Punk?
This was a match designed to protect Punk, who is still pretty beat up, and protect Ryback, who is just really not very good. So that's what they did. I mean, they continually need to keep Punk out of the main storyline, because it doesn't make sense for him to do anything other than to get in there and, punk out Triple H and, support Bryan and et cetera, so. I'll put the low blow finish, I don't know. So I guess that was their way of having neither man really lose the match, even though Ryback got pinned.
Oh, let's face facts. Punk isn't above doing the Ric Flair finish type there. I mean, the most thing you've got to know about this match is, yes, it saved both men from getting A beat up or B looking bad, but it also was basically sort of a filler match so they can continue this to a more drastic effect at somewhere like Hell in a Cell.
Alright, screw it. We're going to talk about the match I want to talk about. Rhodes Family versus The Shield, match of the year.
That match was awesome.
The only match really worth watching on the card.
Darth Goldust.
Long Darth.
Yeah, whichever.
It was Darth Maul.
Yeah,
the worst Darth of all.
Oh, come on!
Also, Matt Jester is the Jar Jar Binks of this podcast.
That's pretty obvious.
I'm not exactly sure what you said there. Are you sure you think he means what you think he means?
Yes, I am.
Yes. This match was great. It was
awesome.
It was told well. The Shield really did a really good job in this. I mean, I can't say enough about that. The bionic elbow from Dean Ambrose. I bet you Dean was marking. I'd mark.
Yeah, you can tell when they put effort into a match like this. This is the result. It was a big moment. It was a big match feel. The result was extremely predictable, but it doesn't really matter in the end, because everybody put on a great performance, and it really was a really good, feel-good moment. And it's not that you can have every match do that on every show, but there's not a huge reason why every match can't have, something behind it in that same respect.
Well, not every match can be that special because of the history and the people involved in the storyline.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
the Shield are very good antagonists, and the Rhodes family has a lot of history, and they've got it all up in this.
A lot of it was sort of done for them already, but I mean things like why should they only announce 4 or 5 matches and then have to announce 3 at the last minute? They shouldn't. They should have the whole card sort of mapped out weeks before it happens.
Time.
Do that.
It's time. It's a concern for time. It's the lack and inability to keep the time that they need to keep and have it not be 20 minutes on a Triple H promo. Which, how many years have we been complaining about that? And then 15 minutes for John Cena to get his stuff in and get over.
We've got 1:30 left in the segment because Ned Jester fails at keeping time. Good job, AJ.
Well, should we talk about the main event real quick? This was another match.
Do it.
Bryan versus Randy. This was another match that, not that it was bad, but I don't know. It just, Bryan,
don't want to see this match again.
Works off.
Don't want to see this match again. Do not want to see this match again.
Horrible ending. I don't know who thought the ending was a good idea. I mean, I understand the story behind it, but it's still a bad idea.
Well, we're probably going to see it again during Hell in the Cell, which is the sucky part, but I would like to put in my 2 bits about the ending of this match, which is, I believe that it was all
Alright, and that's time for 15-minute time limit.
Seriously?
No, it's like, go ahead, finish your point.
Okay, real
Since
quick.
we're playing 15 plus today.
On the internet, it was put it all around that Dolphin, the notorious spoiler, was going to give out spoilers for Battleground. I believe that Vince is so freaking scared of Dolphin, he will put together these shit endings at the last possible minute in order to not be spoiled. However, they are shit endings, which makes the crowd go WTF. So, Vince, give us some real endings and quit being so goddamn scared of Dolphin.
Maybe. That's a decent point. That could be a concern, and they've done stuff like that in the past. But really, you should just do the good ending, even if it's predictable. Because, like I said, everybody knew the roads were winning, and they didn't change that. So.
And it was very good, and it is exactly what we wanted.
So, not that I think that's what happened, but if it is, then yeah, that's stupid.
Alright, so that's it for the 15-minute time limit. Yankum, what song are we going out to?
We're not. We're out of time. We're overtime. We are overtime. So we'll be right back.